Hello and welcome to Video Diaries episode 2. So this is a bit of a side quest series that I've got going here on the channel, really to show some of the background shenanigans that goes on behind the scenes for the usual kind of adventures and running video making that I do. I don't think I can go as far to call it videography at this point. And this episode is a cool one. So in the last episode, I showed you how to do this. So basically using Blender and a plugin called BlenderGIS to create this cool 3D landscape with this cool kind of growing 3D root overlaid onto it. However, if you've seen in the comment section on my last episode, it's not foolproof and it's a pretty fragile process, and to be honest, sometimes it's very difficult to get the resolution that you want in the landscapes without Blender crashing, which is incredibly frustrating. So in this video, I've got a slightly more foolproof method using QGIS and Blender together. And that should be able to really help you create the more high definition models that you're looking for without all the crashing that comes with BlenderGIS. The second thing I want to show you in this video is pretty cool. So I want to show you how to create this cool growing root, but last time it looked a bit basic, looked a bit simple. This time we're going to use a different technique, a slightly better technique, and also kind of create that glowing tip at the end. And the third and final thing I want to show you is how to kind of do some polishing, some landscaping, add some extra detail, add some extra depth to the model so it looks something like this. So let's get into it. So the way we're going to start off is, because we want to kind of download, just have a larger low-res map, which will overlay some of the higher-res detailing too. We're just going to start off as we did before. We're going to delete our object. We're going to go to GIS, Web Geodata Base Map. There we go. Google and Satellite are fine. And here we are. So I'm going to take us all the way to New Zealand, of all places. And zoom level of 13 should be good, because I'm primarily interested in, where are you, Valley? In this valley for the sakes of this video. So the next thing we want to do is we do want to probably make this slightly more higher resolution. So if we press L to lock it and Command plus for Mac, there we go. So probably 1,000 tiles is vaguely reasonable for this. So just give me 1 second while it downloads. Wonderful, it's all done. So what we can do now is just press E to extrude it like that. Fantastic. So at this point, let's just also add the elevation data as well by going to get elevation. This is all in my previous video as well. Buffering. And there we have it. Wonderful. So this is the start of something pretty special. Now we've done this, let's go into QGIS. So QGIS is a free open source software, and the best way I can describe it is it's just where you can mess around with map information, map data. So we're going to go up to the top here and start with a new project. And what I'm going to do next is go to XYZ tiles and just click on my S3 wild imagery connection here. If this isn't set up for you, there are plenty of tutorials on how to do that, so I won't go into the details. But what I really want to do is start zooming into New Zealand. Oops, there we go. I find this a little bit laborious, but let's just go to Mount Aspiring. God, it all looks the same, doesn't it? Give me 1 second. It's just down here. So this is the kind of valley we're interested in here. Perfect. Wonderful. So that's kind of what we're interested in. We've got our lower resolution on the other blender, so we just want to zoom in slightly more to the area of high resolution that we're most keen of getting. And so we got the wild imagery. What I also want to do as well is add the root, just so I know exactly which part of the area I'm messing around with. So to do that, you can just go up to here to the 3 squares, go into vector, click on the dots over here, and there we go. It's almost like I prepared it. So we're going to start by importing the G. Okay, the only thing we're interested in here is the tracks. So let's just click on that and do add layer. Okay, now let's close that. And here we have it. So we can start to see we've got that GPX layer on top as well. So you can see we've got the GPX overlaid here, and that kind of gives us a sense of what area we're dealing with. So next thing we want to do is, I'm actually not interested in all of this. I'm very much interested in only a couple specific tiles of this. So I'm basically going to create a couple of squares, overlay that to this map, and then that will kind of select the area that I export as a more high resolution tile. Hopefully half that made sense to you. So what you can do first is do new shapefile. Cool, let's call it tile 1. Cool, geometry type, we want a line string. Yep, okay, and we just want to use our Wigs84 CRS. Oops, I made the mistake that I've made many times before. So if we try that again, that you're learning with me here. So what you want to do is, before actually putting a file name in, click on the triple dots here and you want to select a place to put the file. And I'm just going to call it tile1. Okay, awesome. So geometry type lime string again, want the wigs CRS. Let's just press OK. We now want to go press on this pen icon here. Cool. And this allows us to basically add layers, add things to this shapefile. You can tell I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. So then you want to go to the add line feature here. And I want to just go down to here, rectangle from extend. And if you don't see these, you just want to make sure that you've got the digitizing toolbar open. So now we are here, we go to rectangle from extent. What we can do is click and then double click, let's do OK, and there we go. We've got our first rectangle. There we go, that's tile 1, easy. I'm just going to create a second tile as well because I want to just capture this bottom bit as well. So as we did before, we want to go to a new shapefile. Don't mess it up like me. There we go, tile 2 should work. Geometry type line string. Got our wig CRS. Once again, we want to go to the pen, add line feature. Got the extent activated still. Let's just click from there all the way to here. Double click or left click and we've got our second tile. Okay, so now we've got our 2 tiles. So the next thing we want to do is just save what we've done here by once again pressing the pen icon. We've got our tile 1, tile 2. Next thing we want to do is just go to our Esri tile, left click, export layer to file. And this is where we put all the settings for high res GeoTIFF that we want to export. So let's go to rendered image, remove VRT, go to our dots and press somewhere to save it. I called it tile 1 high res. Okay, good, we've got our CRS. Let's do the extent, tile 1. Cool. And what we do, the resolution, this is super important. So this is probably what took the most problem solving, is the fact that 2 things. BlenderGIS does not like big TIFF, and big GeoTIFFs are created whenever the file size is more than 4 gigabytes. So really the thing you want to do here is, I found the best file size was around 1 gigabyte to 2 gigabytes. So you don't want to go too crazy with the resolution. And this horizontal and vertical is essentially the number of meters that a pixel equates to. So 3 by 3 is a 3 by 3 meter square is 1 pixel. And that creates us something like 2,000 columns and 2,000 rows. Okay, that's not massive at all. So we should be able to get away with that and it won't crash anything. So the main thing here is make sure your tiles aren't super big and make sure you don't do a super high resolution either. I actually wonder if we can go down to 2. Yeah, let's do 2. I've never done 2 by 2 before, so it should be good. So hopefully it works. Because I found you really just don't want more than like 10 to 15,000 columns and 10 to 15,000 rows. So 2 by 2 should work very nicely. And let's just press OK. You see at the bottom, it's now kind of exporting that high resolution image. And perfect, layer exported, awesome. I'm just going to do the same thing for tile 2 as well. So just give me 1 moment. Export layer to file, select location, rendered image, we want GeoTIFF, layer, extent, tile 2, and let's do 2, 2. Awesome. Let's just press OK. Once again, it's exporting this new layer. So this is really providing quite a robust and flexible and kind of modular approach to creating these base maps. And there we go, we've got our second layer. So let's go back to Blender. Hello, old friend. So what we want to do now is we want to add our other base maps, our high resolution base map. So if we go GIS once again, we can go to import and we can go to georeference raster just here. Now I found my first tile and just import. And you see we've now imported it and it's just beneath, just like this. So the next thing we'll do is just quickly add our other one as well. And there we go, we have our 2 tiles just underneath. So now the next thing we want to do is just add some elevation data to it as well. So GIS, get the topography, awesome. And there we go, look, we've got our high resolution tile just above our low resolution. How cool is that? So we can see we've got some overlap here in the 2 tiles. So what I just like to do is just bring it up by 100 meters, just so this first high resolution tile is above the low res tile. And let's do the same for the other one as well. So what we want to do is just once again add our height data to the second tile under 4. Once again, we've got some overlap, so let's just go to our Z location, bring it up by 100 meters. And how cool is that? We've got our high resolution tiles in our low resolution kind of base map. So what I should have done here, as I'm realizing now that I see this line, is I should have basically just slightly overlapped the tiles when I created the two shape files. And then what you can do is you can just make one slightly lower than the other, like that. The two high res tiles should be able to merge slightly more nicely than they have. So there we have it. What I also want to do next is add our cool looking route. And then after adding our cool route, I'll go back to the base maps and we'll do some cleanup. So we now need to go once again back to QGIS. Because what I want to do here is I want to create a GPX and I want to convert it to a shapefile. So what you want to do is go to GPX, left click, export, save feature as, and this is where we can create our shapefile. So let's call it French Ridge. That's the route. Got the same CRS. So once again, make sure you click the triple dots and there we go. Let's do OK. And here we have it. So now we've got our shapefile. We can go back to Blender again. So now we're back to Blender. I want to go to GIS, import, and then let's go to our shapefile. Here's my shapefile, and then let's import. So this bit's important to get it right. We want to go to elevation source. Let's just do none. Specify shapefile. We want our Wigs 84 Lathlon. And I don't know why I said it like that, and then press OK. There we go, we've got our shapefile below. So the last time what we did here is we converted to a greasy pencil, then added shrink wrap. What I'm going to do slightly differently here is I'm going to go to Object, Convert, I'm going to convert it to a curve this time. Easy now, you can see it's got this curvy looking thing. So we know it's a curve, so what we can do next is just go to our modifiers, shrink wrap. I love shrink wrap. Now this is also when you want to get it right as well. So you want to go to wrap method project, on service, just stead, positive off to take the low res as your target. And then the offset, let's put 110 meters. Sorry, negative 110 meters. And there we go, we've got our beautiful route over our high res tiles. So there we go, that was kind of the easy bit. Next bit is gonna get a little bit tricky because now we want to kind of create that cool glowing effect as well. So we can go to add modifier. Now we want to go to geometry nodes. And then from here, just go down to geometry node editor. Awesome, let's bring that up. So let's just create a new one here. There we go, we've got it called geometry nodes. And if we scroll. So now what we want to start doing is adding some funky things to this. So we can just do add. First thing I want is curve, operations, trim curve. That's the first thing I want. I'm just going to shove it here. Okay, that's good. Factor's fine. End is fine. You can see basically what we do is, okay, once again, I've made the same mistake as I made before. I was wondering, why does this not decrease the length of the curve? Well, it's basically because this, when you shrink wrap it, I believe it turns it into a mesh. So what we want to do is, I'm just going to actually increase this here to a -200, just so it's slightly more above the terrain. What I'm also going to do now is, because the issue is you're shrink wrapping it to the tiles, and what I want to do later is actually increase the strength of the elevation to make it look slightly more aggressive. So I'm just going to do that now. So what we want to do is just go to all the maps, go down to your modifiers, and for this second one here, just make the strength 2. And look, it just brings everything up, makes everything look a little bit more impressive. Just do that to the rest of the tiles. And there we go, wonderful. So now we can go back to this. We can see we've still got the route overlaid. So I'm just going to click here and just press apply. You can see here, I was like, oh, where did the rest go? We've got it trimmed. So you can see here, as we change the end, it increases and we can make it grow and shorten. So let's just put it around there for now. Now we need to add a load more different things here. So now we want to add another node, so we can go to add, and we want to add a spline parameter. So we can go to curve, primitives, which one is it? Oh, it's under read, spline parameter. Let's just put that around about here. We just want to add another one called attribute, a store named attribute. So what we'll do is just connect curve to geometry, connect factor to value down there. Float and point is fine, and we just want to call it something like root underscore factor is what I call it. Just add that as an attribute. There we are, we're making some good progress here. So there's a couple more things we want to do at this point because we really want to add some thickness to this line as well. So the first thing we want to do is go to add, curve, where are we? Primitives, circle line. Let's just add that here and let's just give it a radius of 10 for the time being. So we're starting to build up our thickness. Now next we want to go to curve. We want to convert this to a mesh under the operations. Let's just connect the curve to the profile curve. What you can do is you left click, just do cut links. There we go. And let's connect geometry to the curve. We're going to fill the caps. The next thing we want to do is add some material. So we go to add, material, replace material. Voila. So let's just quickly create a material. So just new, principled BDSF, and let's just make it lightish orange. Wonderful. Now we can select that. It looks a bit like mustard. Let's make it slightly more interesting. And there we go, select it down here, material 002. Wonderful. Now we need to join these two geometries together. So add, and we can go to geometry, and join geometry, 1, 2, and voila, there we go. Look, we have a thick line. We won't be able to see the material yet because I do need to go into viewpoint shading to see the material. Wonderful. So we've got our reference, we've got our material, we've got thickness. Now it gets even more interesting. So what I'm aiming to do here is just build a kind of glowing tip. So to do that, we can just go to shade editor here, and there we go. What we want to do is go down to our ridge. And so we've got this, we've got our material, we've got our material output. We're going to slightly change this so we kind of have more of a color ramp. So what we want to do is just go here, add, input, and let's just pull our attribute and move it to the left. Now we keep it as geometry and we just do root underscore factor, which is what we called it before. So now the next thing we want to do is add a color ramp. So just go to add, there we go, converter color ramp. Let's bring that in. Let's use the factor from our attribute, move that down here. There we go. The next thing you can do is I'm just going to click up here to the white. We're just going to change that to a burning hot red. Beautiful. And I just want to just this slider up like that. Beautiful. Next thing we want to do is just add emission by going to add, where is it, shader, emission. Half the struggle is just finding where they are. Moving that to color. Let's do strength 10. Let's go crazy. So this will hopefully add the glow to the end as well. The next thing we want to do is add a shader mixer. So add shader, mix shader. Move that in here. We pull the emission and pull it down to the bottom shader. Once again, we need to left click. There we go, to cut the link, down here. And then we want to bring our shader and move it to the surface, like so. And there we go, you can see we've kind of got this shade working our way up the tip of our root. Add more space, you might be able to see it slightly better. How cool is that? Now the one thing to note is it isn't going to be glowing, at least for me, because there's a couple more steps unfortunately I need to do to get the glow to happen in the renderer. And this is all because of the renderer I'm using. So if we go back here and we look at what the rendered view would look like, I need to go down to the scene. I use Eevee, and there's a couple of things you need to do to set up glowing in Eevee. So what you need to do is go to compositing. Now we've got this wonderful editor. We want to go to use nodes, and there we go. We started our nodes. Now, a quick way to find things is Shift A, and then you can search, and then glare. Wonderful. Let's just bring glare into the middle there. Yeah, that's right. We want image to image, image to image. This is all wizardry. Saturation is fine, strength is fine, and the only thing we want to do actually is, the main thing is go to glare type, and there we go. Do it bloom, medium, strength, beautiful. Awesome. Okay, so you may notice that it's still not glowing and there's one final step. So you need to go to the left, to the right here under viewport shading and just go to combined composite always. And there we go, look, we have our glow. How cool is that? Okay, so we've added our high-res tiles, we've got our glowing root, but it's pretty dark while we're in rendering mode. So far what we've done is we've got our tiles, pretty dark, we're in rendering, we've got our root and it's glowing. The things are going pretty well so far. Next thing we want to do is what I like to call landscaping, essentially some advanced polishing. So first thing we want to do is add some environmental lighting. So firstly, if you go to a website called Polyhaven, you can go to these HDRIs, and we want to download a nice, pretty, sunny, outdoor-looking one. What should we do? Autumn Hill View. Okay, let's download that. Wonderful. Let's go back to Blender now. First thing I want to do is just go to my world settings. I want to go to color, and I want to change that to environmental texture. Okay, it's a bit interesting, we've got something purple on the left, but what we can do is go down downloads, we can download our autumn hill. And look, it's nice and lit up. Now the issue is we've got all this weird background, so what I like to do is just go to our renderer, film, transparent. There we go. Cool. So we've got some lighting. The mountains are looking slightly better now. We've got our root, which is nice and glowing at the tip. So it's a bit shiny, this the tiles. So what I like to do is go down to all of our tiles, go down to material, let's go to our surface, and let's just reduce the specular down here to something like 0.1. Okay, that's adding some depth. There we go, it's looking slightly better now. It's looking pretty good so far, map's looking better. What I have noticed is since we've increased the strength, we do have slight overlap between our two tiles, which is a bit annoying. So what I'm first going to do is just bring these two tiles up slightly higher. So let's go down to this, 100, let's do 120. Great, we'll do 200 for the time being. There we go, we've got less overlap now. Let's do the same for the other one. Cool. Is our root still all good? Yes, it is. We may just want to bring our root up a little bit further as well. Let's just do 100, so we're all safe on the overlap, and it's looking a little bit better now. Now, next thing we can do is we can go to render properties, and we can go to color management, and let's just make things look medium high contrast. Everything looks better in high contrast. And there we go, there we have it. It's looking a little bit more realistic now. So now the next thing you want to do is just go to all your tiles and let's just apply all of these. So we're just applying all of these modifiers. Make sure to do the first one, then the second one. And so what we've done, we've applied all the modifiers in the right sequence. So the next thing we can do is select our tile, go to object, go to edit mode. There we go. Let's press A to select all the vertices, subdivide a 1 and a 2. See, now our object is covered in vertices. So if we go back to object mode, we can see that it's potentially added a little bit more detail in our terrain, so it looks a little bit less flat. Awesome. So now just do the same for the other one. So click on it, edit, A, subdivide a 1, 2, and then if we go back to objects, there we go. And I did actually, because I was wondering, does this actually make any difference? But I did a comparison of a non-subdivided and a subdivided terrain, and it does make quite a lot of difference to the detail. And so there's one more thing that I want to show you how to do in this session of the video diaries, and it's basically to turn this into a circle and then to pull down the sides and make it look a bit better, more like a proper model. So the first thing we want to do is we want to add a circle. So if we go to the top view, which you can do by pressing 7, Shift A, let's add a mesh circle. Perfect. Now we want to make this way bigger. So let's say 10,000. There we go. That should pretty much include our entire route. I might just be safe. Just put it as 15,000 for the time being. Never mind. 12,000 is. Let's go crazy. So there we go. We've got our circle. It's down below. We've got 64 vertices and 12,000 radius. Let's just go to 1 and let's just bring it up with G like so. Beautiful. So it's over kind of the terrain we're interested in at this point. Let's go back to 7 for our top view. Now, this is quite important. When we go to our terrain, we go into edit mode. Okay, we get this, which is fine. And what we want to do is we want to then shift and select our circle, like so. And then we want to go to mesh, knife project. And there you go, you see we've kind of selected all the area below our circle. So what I like to do is do left click, separate selection. We've got our own little second area, which is just selection. What we can do, we can kind of delete. And look, we've got our circular landscape. That looks pretty cool. We don't really need our circle anymore, so we can just get rid of that. Now what I want to do is kind of bring down the sides and make it look a bit more like a model. So what we can do is just go to our full area, click on edit. I use option double click, like that. What we can do is if we go to the side view, funky, we can then press extrude. And let's press Z, so we're going straight down like that. What we can now do is, let's just double click this again, make sure it's selected. We can press S, then Z. And if we move There we go, we can make it pretty much a flat bottom, like that. And there we go, it looks a little bit, but well. So what we need to next do is add a material around the sides here. Let's just get our face tool. And before we can select all of that, we can go down to material. Now what I want to do is actually kind of make it look a bit like dirt. So the next thing I want to do is basically assign a side mirror material to this. So once again, you can go to Polyhaven, you can select a texture that you're interested in. We want to create a new material and click new. Cool, we've got material 4. So the first thing we want to do is we don't really want this anymore, so we can kind of delete it and we can add texture, image texture. There we go. And this is where we can just open, I've got my JPEG here, so let's open a JPEG. Let's just connect that up so we kind of see what we're looking for. So what I do need to do is just press assign to the selection, and there we go. So we kind of got this, but it doesn't really look any better. That's because we're kind of stretching an image over quite a large surface area. So to improve this, let's once again select it all, zoom option, double click. So we need to mess around a little bit more in this editor here, so in the shader editor. So what we can do is we can add input texture coordinate. Okay, we've got this. We now need to add a mapper. So we can go to vector, mapping, and here we go. What we want to do is take our UV and move towards our vector. We can take our vector, connect it to our next vector here. Now you can see once we increase the scale, there's one thing I have forgotten to do. So if we select all our sides again, if we go to UV unwrap faces, smart UV project, press unwrap, and there we go. We can see we've kind of got our repeated dirt material down here. So if we go back to our object mode, it kind of looks a little bit better, doesn't it? So we've got our high resolution map layers, we've got our cool roof with the glowing bit, and we've slightly improved the look of the sides of our model, also making it circular. Not too bad for a day's work. Wow, I don't know about you, but I've got a headache after all of that. Blender is a massively powerful tool, and so is QGIS, but it's a steep learning curve. And with great power comes great skill and technique and responsibility required. But anyway, I think the result nonetheless looks pretty cool, pretty incredible. We're slowly getting better at building up these models and using these different tools. And so these are techniques I'm definitely going to be putting into my future videos as well. And I guess if there's one thing to take away from this, it's get out there, start testing, start trying, start experimenting, and see where you get to. And with that, thanks for watching the video, and see you next time.